Many people ask me why we have so many musicians who are so big personalities and have a personal voice. And that's why they not are forced into a formula, but they are encouraged to develop their own voice. Not to perfection, but to be personal. My name is Ole Otnæs. I am the director of a venue in Oslo called the National Jazzscene, and I've been doing that for 8 years. But I've been promoting jazz since I was a teenager. The first concert I ever presented of an international band was Keith Jarrett Trio in 1969. And then for many years I was a part of a jazz club in different places in Norway. And then I got a position as the director for a concert hall in Bodø, where I lived, and did that for 10 years. And in 2001, I was asked to take over as the artistic director of Molde International Jazz Festival, the oldest festival in Norway, the biggest in Norway, and I did that for 13 years. And so it's been a part of my life to present music, to present live music to an audience, and that's my mission, I think, to do that. And just a few words about the National Jazzscene, which is funded by the government. We got quite heavy funding, and the aim is to be the most important year-through venue in Norway. And we also cooperate with venues around Norway. We are organizing tours in Norway to both big and smaller clubs. And the program we present 4 concerts per week. We do all kinds of things. 10 Saturdays through the year we present young kids coming on a big professional venue for the first time. Every second Wednesday throughout the year we do a series called Unheard, where we present mostly students from Norway or post-students from Norway, but also from international academies and institutions. And then we do most of the big Norwegian names, and also international names like Mehldau, John Schofield, Chick Corea, that can fit into a venue with a capacity of 300. So I'm super happy to both present the music and also to go into cooperation with different organizations and like the International Jazz Platform. When I was in Molde, I was a part of Take 5, also a talent developing program, where the first group of musicians who came to Kent in England for this was 2 Norwegians, Gard Nilsen and Ole Morten Vågan, and also Chick Corea. And then they met and they made this band. And so I've been following those guys and all others that we have been lucky to work with. So our mission is both to develop new talent, but also to present the biggest names in jazz. Well, the most important institution is the Academy in Trondheim. Started 40 years ago with 2 musicians were in the forefront of this. Not theoretical guys, but musicians wanting to learn younger musicians to play by ear, not to repeat what others have done before, but to in a way present their personality. And this academy has been a big success. And a lot of the young or the new generation of musicians come from this education system. The first group among them were Nils Petter Molvær, who is now one of the big Norwegian jazz names, and a lot of generations after him. And we also have schools now in Oslo, in Bergen, in Kristiansand and Stavanger. And some of these are based on the same theories that was developed in Trondheim by listening, and by imitating, but not like being the new Miles Davis, but being the new themselves. So that's why many people ask me why we have so many musicians who are so big personalities and have a personal voice. And that's why they not are forced into a formula, but they are encouraged to develop their own voice. Not to perfection, but to be personal. I can give an example. The students on the second year in Trondheim, I think they're normally a group of 10 to 12 students. They have to organize a tour themselves throughout Norway. They have to get the funding, they have to book the jobs, they have to make the posters, they have to make the ads, everything. So they are able to meet the real life after they've finished as students. So this is a successful story about doing their own tour. And of course they get help from mentors and the teachers, but they have to do it themselves. And they every year play at Vossajazz, and they also come to Victoria, my venue in Oslo. So it's important for them to already then on the second year be able to know how to cope with reality after they've finished. Well, we try as best as we can, but the Norwegian Jazz Forum, which is the organization for both festivals, venues, clubs, big bands and musicians. And they got a lot of help from them. And they also get a lot of help from Music Norway, who is the export body in Norway. And we have a good funding system, as you say. The Arts Council funds both bands, venues and festivals. So we have a kind of stable financial system. Still, it's not enough, but we have come a long way to have a good system for that. And we try to have a kind of recommended minimal fee. It's not everyone who are able to pay it, but at least we have a system that encourages both musicians to ask for this and the promoters to pay what is regarded as a minimum fee. So we hope that this will help artists to develop their careers and to be successful. A lot of those musicians also who has this education become teachers in addition to be a musician. And some will work in a bar or do other work, but it's not, I mean, it's so many new people coming up and new students and new musicians coming up, so it's not enough work for everyone in Norway. So we also have to help them to travel abroad, where there's not the same conditions as they have at home. There is no policy towards this, but I mean they are encouraged to think ecological and to think environmental, but it's not easy. The Arts Council have put up a few measures to support those who take this into account, but we don't have a real good policy on this at this moment. And the awareness in Norway is high, but for 8 years now we have had a conservative government, and it's a lot of good intentions, but a lot of blah, blah, blah. So when the EU last week presented their new plan for the next 20 years, they're way beyond what we are doing in Norway. And central politicians in Norway now says that this is not realistic. So I hope we will have a change when we get a new government this fall that will be more responsible to these questions. I mean, in Norway, I just checked, when you buy a new car in Norway, everyone is encouraged to buy an electric car and a hybrid. And now it's 90% of new cars sold is electric or hybrid. So that's a good thing. The thing that is not that good is that we still lack enough chargers for these cars. But it's coming, and it's going to be better. And in Oslo, we had the local government for Oslo City is a Labour, Socialist and Green Party government. And they have done a lot more than we have done on national basis. So it's a much stronger focus in smaller cities and also like in Oslo than it is on the national level. we are still digging for more oil to get more money in the bank. So in one hand, they say we have to take responsibility. On the other hand, we are still searching for more oil, more oil, more oil. In one way, it's good because it gives us more money and the freedom to spend money. But at the same time, we have to think of the environment in a much larger scale than we do. I mean, what is problematic for us, because Norway is in a bit on the outskirts of Europe. So to get to Norway, it's a long trip, so most of them fly. And when you eventually come to Norway, and you are touring in Norway, the distances between the cities are also so long that I mean, we are cooperating with Stavanger and Bergen and Trondheim and Molde and Tromsø. To go to Tromsø, it's 2 hours by plane. You cannot do that by train. To go to Trondheim by train, it's 8 hours, the same to Bergen and to Stavanger. So it's so time consuming that it's difficult to make a tour with a low carbon footstep in this case. So we're working on it, but for many artists it will take 2 days, because sitting on a train for 8 hours, getting up early, doing a show, it will be exhausting in the end. So in parts of Norway you can go by train or by other means, but to go to the biggest cities, it's almost impossible to do it without going by plane. Still, I mean, you can go by train from Oslo to Copenhagen and then continue, because when you're on the continent it's much easier, but getting there can sometimes be more problematic. So I mean, if you get to Amsterdam, you can go to all cities in Europe by short train trips, and that makes it possible for them. But we have had big discussions in Norway, because a lot of the younger musicians especially have wanted to go to Japan, because it's cool to go to Japan and to play for 10 people 4 times and then travel back again. That's not sustainable. And there's been a lot of discussions on this, and Music Norway and also the Arts Council have supported tours like that, but they are now saying that we cannot continue doing this if we shall talk seriously about the footprint.